Welcome into another episode of Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buckalter. Follow me on Twitter, Josh G. Buck. The Facebook page is Clocker Sports and Triple Zeros Pod. Website, clockersports.com. The email address is clockersports@gmail.com. And you know what we're talking about, man. I'm not even going to beat around the bush. It's NBA playoffs, but for those of us who follow teams who aren't in the NBA playoffs, here, Chicago Bulls fans. Anyway, I digress. What we had happen tonight that was of interest to Bulls fans was the NBA draft lottery. And listen, it went better than expected. Not as good as I hoped, but it definitely went better than expected. And we had a few surprises along the way. So this is how the top 14, the lottery, shook out. Celtics are going to be picking 14th, Pelicans 13, the Kings come in at 12, the Spurs at 11, the Suns at 10, Wizards at 9. And it gets interesting right here with the Knicks falling to 8th. They had initially had the 6th pick, and they were going to be picking in front of the Bulls, but that did not happen. So Knicks fans' misery will continue for at least another year. They were hoping to do big things and maybe get up into that top 3, like every team is, because this draft, while there will certainly be talent later on, is widely believed to be more or less a top 3, top-heavy draft. Beyond that, you had the Detroit Pistons come in at 7. They lost a couple of spots because they were going to be 5th. The Cleveland Cavaliers they fell to 5th. They were going to be 2nd. That's where their odds were lying. And then the Bulls, my beloved Bulls, fell into the top 4. That breaks the curse, really, of having 3 straight years of 7 overall picks. Now, it's a little bit tricky there because really one of those picks was Larry Markkinen, and he was picked by the Timberwolves, but it was picked for the Bulls. So I don't know how you really count it, but they don't have to get 7 again. And that's a good thing. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. The top 3, though, shook out to be the Charlotte Hornets at 3, Golden State Warriors at 2, and the Minnesota Timberwolves coming in at 1. Now, initially, it was going to be Timberwolves at 1. Like I said, Cleveland at 2, and Golden State at number 1. And Charlotte jumps all the way up from 8 to 1. So, from 8 to 3. So, Golden State, and honestly, people were talking about, Golden State didn't get it, but they still got 2nd, and people are upset about it. But more than anything, they get to save about $4.5 million just by not having to pay the first overall pick. That's a great, and they're probably going to package that anyway for somebody. Who knows? Giannis. Him and Wiggins go, or the pick and Wiggins go for Giannis. Does that do it? Does that make it happen? Who knows? But I think what's interesting here is the Timberwolves at 1 and Charlotte at 3. Now, if we assume that the Warriors are going to trade that pick, or if they keep it, who would they take? I would say they're taking Wiseman if they stay at 2. They might stay at 2 just for Wiseman. Who are the Wolves taking is the question first. They're not taking Wiseman. They don't need a center. I can see them taking Edwards, but you don't really want to put him next to D'Lo. So do you get LaMelo, and then what are you doing with that backcourt? Is that a backcourt that can stop anybody enough? They're going to have some playmaking, flashy games, I'll tell you that much. And that might be the goal there. And who knows? This could be a precursor to other things, but I don't know. That's an odd pick, or an odd place to pick at 1 overall. And I think it's going to add to the intrigue of the draft. Now, it does bear mentioning that this is a team that's up for sale, and, they get the number 1 overall pick. It makes things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more palatable for a potential buyer. Something similar to what we saw in New Orleans when they just miraculously ended up with the first overall pick and landed Zion Williamson. Now, I would probably peg LaMelo for Minnesota. I don't see Anthony Edwards. Like I said, it's just too similar with D'Angelo. Now, Edwards doesn't have to have the ball like Russell does, so maybe that kind of differentiated. Maybe that's what eliminates LaMelo, is that he has to have the ball. It's just that's an interesting one. Like I said, it can go a lot of ways. Maybe this means D'Angelo's on his way out, but I don't know why you would go through all the trouble to get him just to move him for a rookie and then make the incumbent star Karl-Anthony Towns unhappy, and that'll probably end up leading to him leaving, which he might do anyway. But we're getting into the weeds, and I think you see what my point is about how interesting this is going to be with the Timberwolves sitting there at 1. Now, we're going to skip over the Warriors because there's a lot of ways they can go. I think if they keep it as Wiseman, I think they try to package it, though, for do they? You're not getting Giannis. I don't know what they do with that pick. That's another interesting spot, and probably we'll dive deeper into the potential, the possibility, for either one of these 3 teams. But I want to look at the Hornets because this is a pivot point, and it's really a precursor to what's going to happen for my Bulls. But Michael Jordan has not been the best drafter, right? His organization, well, I'm not going to say he's pulling the trigger, but he probably is. This is an interesting spot for them because they're in that area where any one of the three that falls to them should be good enough to go. But do they go and a little against the grain? Like, I've seen a lot of people. I mean, I say a lot of people. I've seen people suggest that they could go with an Obi Toppin type guy, or that they hope that Wiseman falls to them and that could be their pick. Front court seems to be a mate for PJ Washington in the front court. Seems to be a look for them. But more importantly, this is a chance for, I think, Mike to get a bona fide star player. And I'm not sure, Kimball was their closest thing that they had to it, and they squandered that. And we've been talking about the cap hell that they're going to be in. They overpaid Terry Rozier just for Devontae Graham to kind of step up and show out this season. And I don't see them adding another guard. So it has to be Wiseman. But if it's not, do they go to Obi Toppin? And here's why that's interesting, and I'm kind of jumping the gun, but I can't help but talk about it. I mentioned my beloved Bulls. Sitting there at 4th, they are just outside, and I wrote this article for Pippen Ain't Easy that they were going to need some help in the draft, but they could get it. And they had a 7.6% chance of reach the first overall pick, much better than when they got Derrick Rose, and they had like a 1% chance or something like that, and they made it all the way up. Better odds, didn't get as high, but still in a position to take advantage of one of these organizations in front of them, either moving out of that spot or blundering and taking somebody against the grain. Like I said, I don't see Edwards in Minnesota. I don't see Wiseman. I think that's going to be LaMelo. 2 could be Wiseman. I don't think they're getting Edwards either. You still got Clay coming back. I don't know if you're trying to add another guard to this rotation just yet. So I can see them packaging that for somebody on the wing there to basically fill the void that Kevin Durant left and kind of ease it up, or going with Wiseman to get that man in the middle that they haven't had in forever. The Hornets, though, that could be interesting. Do they go with the Obi Toppin? Do they go, if Wiseman falls, do they go there? That's the pivot. I think that bodes, it holds a lot of weight of what the Bulls can do, because if they sit at 4, I think they're going to end up, and I don't want to say stuck, but I think they end up with Denny Avdija from Israel. And maybe that's what they want to target anyway. We know we have Arturas Karnisovas. He's got the inroads over there for obvious reasons. Guy who brought in Nikola Jokic. I took chances on guys like Bol and Michael Porter Jr. Those are later round picks, obviously. So this is the last time I think that I read that they had a pick this high was Jamal Murray, and that was pick 7. So, I mean, that's a great pick, but I wouldn't want to pick Jamal Murray at 4th. I like Jamal Murray. He's grown on me because I didn't before, but I definitely appreciate what he brings to the table. I'm still not picking him 4th. I'm just not doing it. So, I think the Bulls sitting at 4 are hoping for somebody to blunder and kind of let a guy slip through the cracks. Personally, I'd love to see LaMelo or Wiseman here, and the more I look at it, the more Wiseman is growing on me as the preferred choice. And I saw it, and I can't remember where I was trying to find it for this very reason. But I saw somebody suggest that there are reports that internally they prefer Wiseman over Ball as well. And you can see why. Now, that solves a couple of problems, and I've wrote about this for Pippen Ain't Easy as well. Wiseman can come in and move Wendell to the 4. You can move Wendell for some extra pieces. Maybe you move Wendell to the 4. You move Lowry for some extra pieces. But I really think the Bulls would like to have 2 7-footers out there and kind of zig where everybody else is going zagging. But they, again, if they don't get either Charlotte or one of these teams up top to fumble the bag, they're not going to have a chance at one of the top guys. Now, that doesn't mean they won't find who ultimately ends up being the top guy. And I've seen Obi projected here, and I just don't get it. He's not a 3. He's not going to play 3 in the NBA, or at least it doesn't seem that way right now. It seems too stiff to be doing that. He's not a really great defender, but he does defend. I just don't think he can defend a 3. A modern power forward, some small ball 5 in his future. And he's also one of the older prospects. Now, maybe again, if they do pick him, I hope he's a beast, and I'm completely wrong. I just don't know the fit there. I still think that if they get to that point and the top 3 guys are gone, Melo, Ball, Anthony Edwards, and James Wiseman, I think that the Bulls go with Denny Avdija. So, story that's going to keep on coming up because it's not much else happening. We're going to be looking out to see who gets who and what gets what. But the Bulls, as a Bulls fan, I am happy they moved up from 7. I am disappointed they didn't crack the top 3. But beggars can't be choosers, man. They got out of that 7th spot, and hopefully this means that they'll end up getting some much-needed talent a much needed infusion. And maybe again somebody will slip up and they'll be able to steal one from the clinches of another team. But that was just a precursor to, well, not really, it was an interlude really, to the games of the day. We've all played 2 games through the entire first round playoff bracket, and honestly, it's been about what I expected. I think we talked about it a little bit, how balancing out this is, and I'm in the process, I think, of putting together something for Clocker Sports about this. The bubble has been the equalizer, and even if we've seen some of these series balance out, which we did, I think we've seen a lot of the gap between the top tier teams and that next level isn't really as wide as we think it is, except for maybe in closing. I guess that's all the world, because it's what ends up leading to victory. So, but on to what happened. The Raptors continued their whooping on the Nets. They are now up 2-0. This game featured 46 points in the paint to 32 for the Raptors, but the turnover battle actually went the Nets' way, 17-9, and they had 23 points to the Raptors' 6. Just wasn't enough, though. The Raptors are a grinded-out team. Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, and Norman Powell all had 20-plus points. I think it was VanVleet and Lowry with 24, and Powell with the 20. Pascal Siakam chipped in 19 points, and the Raptors shot 25% from 3. Fred VanVleet, after going 8 of 10 from the other night, was 3 of 11. So you probably wonder, wait a minute, how did that just pivot from them going 20-plus to how poorly they were shooting from 3? Because it shows how undermanned the Nets are. And I think while we are giving the Raptors credit for being all over them like they're supposed to be, we have to acknowledge the fact that these are depleted Nets. And people were talking about, they still got some guys for talent, and they won some games. Regular season is a whole different monster, and they're seeing that right now. You got 14 and 14 from Joe Harris. You got 16 and 11 from Karis LeVert. I believe you got 15 and 14 or 14 and 15, something like that from Jared Allen. Garrett Temple gave you 21 points. You got 17 from Luau Caparo. Like, you're getting chip-ins from a lot of guys. It's not enough, because you don't have these guys that really this has been put together for. So these guys are trying to step up and become stars, and they're really just role players, and it's just not there. So I think I'd given this a gentleman's sweep. I got to go back and check my predictions here, but this is looking like sweep status all day, every day, twice on Sunday. The next series is the Utah Jazz getting their revenge on the Denver Nuggets to make that thing 1-1. This was another one where 28 points in the paint advantage goes to the Nugs. Donovan Mitchell, though, came out 30 and 8, 6 of 7 from 3. And he noted an intentional shift in philosophy. He tried to kind of let it flow more than attacking. You got 26 points out of Jordan Clarkson, Rudy Gobert 19 and 7. I'm always baffled, and I know it happens more often than I'm, I guess, condemning it for. But whenever a 7-footer fails to get double-digit boards, I'm always like, what? Especially a dude like Rudy Gobert, who's supposed to be camped out in the paint. Like, I don't know what you're doing when you're not getting the boards, but whatever. Get your damn rebounds. Joe Ingles, 18 and 6. And honestly, these are solid stat lines. When you look at it, the raw scoring numbers, you would think that it would have been closer, or that the Nuggets might even have won that game. You got 28 points out of Michael Porter Jr. He went 6 and 9 from 3, so him and Mitchell were kind of just having a 3-point contest. Nikola Jokic, 28 and 11. Jamal Murray gave you 14 this time. That's where you start to see the decline. And then Monte Morris, 10 points. Here's the thing. This is going to be a very, very even series. I told you already, I don't think either one of these teams is championship caliber, but they're definitely tough out, and they're proving it, and I think this is going to be I still think the Nuggets win it, because I think they're a deeper team, but they're not going to just walk over the Jazz. This is probably going to go 6 or 7, and judging by the looks of it, it's probably going to be the most entertaining, because this is the one that you really can't say that you have a good beat on. I can't. Mike Conley hasn't even gotten back. It's like when Mike Conley comes back, now it's a whole new series, and like I said, at 1-1, it's basically 0-0. I know we're doing funky math, but you understand what I'm saying, and to be honest, I could see a pivot coming from if whoever wins Game 3 probably wins that series, because I think it's that important to get the leg up on the other team. Now we'll see what the Nuggets come back with after coming out pretty flat, or dropping this game to the Jazz. But like I said, we talked about this, man. This one's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a fight. I don't think either one's really good, but they're definitely going to be tough out. So not surprising. Definitely better than seeing a lot of 2-0s and seeing several 1-1s after 2 games for a lot of these series. The next one, Philadelphia 76ers fall to the Boston Celtics. The Celtics now go up 2-0. Listen, Philly just doesn't have enough. And that was my pick to come out of the East. But once Ben went down, that was dead. And on top of that, even more so, you got to worry about the fact that Brett Brown can't coach. And I know that seems like a harsh thing to just come out and say, but I'm not very high on, like, I feel like that team is just no action. Like, there's not enough schematically going on. And I know that you can say that about a lot of coaches, and a lot of them are really ego management and making sure guys are in the right places when they're supposed to be. But I don't even know if I see that from Brett Brown. Embiid is out here going through Herculean efforts. 34-10 this game. He's averaging 30-13 with 2 assists, a block, and a steal for the series in 2 games. So he's out here doing all he can, but he's not getting a lot of help. You got Josh Richardson, who gave him 18 this game. Tobias Harris 13-10, but he shot 28% from the floor, and he was like over 5 from 3 or something like that. It's been bad. Or no, he didn't take that many. He was 0 for 2. He's been 0 for the series, though. It was 0 for 5 from 3. And he and Al Horford are just robbing the Sixers. No mask. Al Horford is averaging 5, 4, and 3. 5, 4, and 3. Now listen, I have been a vocal, I don't want to say opposer, but I have definitely been outspoken on how I find Al Horford to be slightly overrated by those who love the simplicity of his game. Now, he's another Kyle Lowry type. He's a big man version, basically, where he does all the little things, but he's not doing enough of them right now. And a 5-4-3 line through 2 games for a guy that you paid that much money for, I don't care if he's playing out of position or not. 5, 4, and 3 is horrible, son. That's bad. So I think now the question is, I think Brett Brown's gone once this is over with. But the question I asked, and I asked this on the Clock Sports Roundtable, be looking out for that podcast to come out tomorrow too. But I asked, who do you split them up, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, or do you keep them together one more year? And I'll ask that to you as well, and I'd love to hear your answer. Send that to clockersports.com or Josh Buck on Twitter. Do you split them up, and if so, who are you keeping? I, on the pod, said that if we're talking about who's the better player, the more talented player, I think that's obviously Joel Embiid, a guy who can do everything. And while he's not the ball handler Ben Simmons is, Ben Simmons won't even shoot a jumper like that. You know what I mean? And Joel will pluck him. He's not a great three-point shooter, but he makes enough to keep the defense honest. But he can't stay healthy, right? And you always wonder about his focus. Ben Simmons, while he's out now, he's typically been the healthier guy, and his big issue obviously is the jump shooting. Now, to me, this is something else that I brought up. A bigger issue is free throw shooting, because I can live with you not hitting jumpers if you can make the defense pay for fouling you and sending you to the line. He can't do that right now, so I'm not even focused on a 3-point shot. I'm really not focused on a midi either. I'd much rather he spend some time at that free throw line and figure that ish out, because that'll save a lot of strife and pretty much make him the guy that a lot of people want him to be all the time if they could just get him to be a better free throw shooter. Now, that being said, I think that Embiid is the more talented player, but I think that Ben Simmons is the more important player to what's going on the floor. I think you need that guy to orchestrate it, and while I love Embiid and what he does, I think he will always need a guard to run the offense. That's one thing that you just don't see from a big man. It's not unique to him. That's just what it is. And so I think that's just the way it is. I don't know if you break him up. I know they're going to need another piece. They're not going to be able to win by themselves, but I think it's something that's going to have to be explored sooner or later, because it doesn't seem to be working, even if for the simple reason that you can't count on both of them to be on the floor at the same time enough that you have to move one to get something back. I just don't know how long you keep this together. That's all. And the way they spent the money, Tobias Harris and Al Horford, and Tobias is my boy. Cold War, that's my guy, and it hurts. It pains me to say it, but it just has not been good for him. It has not been good. Maybe it's just a this year thing, but it don't look good. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of his. So I think the Sixers are done. They led this game 33-27 after the first quarter. They ended up getting outscored 101-60 the rest of the way. 17-1 fast break points in favor of the Celtics. By the way, that 101-60, the Sixers' final score was 101 points. So in 3 quarters, Boston scored just as many as Philly did for an entire game. Not a good look. not a good look. So, I think that you can look at Jason Tatum, 33 points, 60% from the floor, 8 of 12 from 3. Kemba gave you 22. Jaylen Brown gave you 20. There's just not enough on the other side. At least there's not enough coming from the other side right now in Philly to think that this is going to be anything more. Can they steal a game? Maybe, but this has a saddening sweep feel. Like I said, Embiid 30-13 for the series, and it's just not enough, man. He's looked gassed as well at the end of at the end of these games. So keep a lookout for that, but it just doesn't look great. It just does not look great. Mavs Clippers. Woo! Let me tell you about this. So the Clippers got away with one, and I told you this. That I'm not sure that if Luka or if Kristaps doesn't get bounced, that they don't win that game. I'm not sure that we don't see a 0-2 Clippers down 0-2 right now if Stapp stays in that game. But he stayed in the game, and the Clippers never led. So if that doesn't tell you how much of a rout it was, that's exactly what it was. And the Clippers, for all of the heroics of Kawhi Leonard, 35 and 10, he's averaging 32 and 11 for the series. He's shooting 23% from three, so he's not able to extend the range. Lou Williams gave you 23 and 7, but that was his first really solid game. Obviously, it's only the second game of the series, but you know what I'm saying. PG gave you 14 and 10, but he's shooting 23% from the floor, 20% from three in that game. LA was 29% from three. They were 34% game one, 29% from three in game two. Just not falling for them, and it's not falling early enough. That's for damn sure. To hold off and really take advantage. Now, they're in trouble because I'm not sure what they're going to adjust. They look disheveled on offense. Maybe Pat Beverly coming back is a much bigger deal than I want to give credit for, but they weren't defending the perimeter when he was playing, so I don't know how much that's really going to help. Luka had 28, 8 and 7, Staps 23 and 7. You got Tim Hardaway Jr. going for 17, Trey Burke 16, Seth Curry, not Steph, Seth 15, and Bobby got you 13 points. Boban Marjanovic. It looks like the Mavericks are the deeper team. They're definitely shooting hotter from the perimeter, and that's a concern if you're the Clippers, because not only are you not hitting shots, but your vaunted perimeter defense has been pretty much MIA for most of the series. I don't know what they do about this. Like I said, they look disheveled. They don't have a real point guard on the roster. You had Lou Will getting 7 assists. Like, come on now. I just don't know what they do. And then after the game, Paul George is seen ice on his shoulder, and let me just tell you, that is, even if it hurts, man, you gotta know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Because part of me wants to be like, man, wait till after the presser to ice up your shoulder. But the other part of me is just like, whatever, who cares, right? If it hurt, it hurt. But it's definitely reminiscent of LeBron with the soft cast after losing, and it just does not have a good vibe. And again, there's a lot riding on this. They were just talking all of that yam about Dame, and he came out and shot like that. And George ended up going to social media saying, why are you worried about me? And I just had to chuckle because, damn, you were sending shots all that Dame for missing some free throws, and he was just pulling from deep, and it wasn't. Paul George had gone fishing that game. It was bad, and to come out with the shoulder wrapped up, and after the effect excuse, it just doesn't look good. I'm not saying he's not hurt. I'm saying it doesn't look good, and we know perception is reality, and the perception is, fam, you looking for a cop-out. And if he comes out in hoops next game, he better have the ice on again. Otherwise, it's going to be some serious discussions as to what's going on. Now, he'll just say, it was a one game. It was a little bit sore, whatever. It looked like a cop-out, son. Like, yeah, didn't look good. So, the Clippers better get it together. I think they're going to win still, and I think they end up meeting the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. But, Mavericks are not playing around. It's just, can they sustain this? They've been shooting pretty well for much of this series, and I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain that. You're not going to get. Are you? Maybe. I said the same thing about Vucevic, and you got more out of him. We'll talk about him in a second. So maybe you do get this out of them again. I think Staps and Luka are going to score, and they're not stopping Staps, and they haven't been able to slow Luka down, and they've been throwing bodies at him left and right. Kawhi and PG have covered that man, and he's been getting whatever he wants. So if you start getting, and Curry does what he does, if you keep getting that from Burke and from Hardaway Jr. and you get some more from Dorian Finney-Smith, look out. Clippers better get it together. Montrezl Harrell's been pretty much useless. I know he's just coming back from a funeral, I believe he was attending outside of the bubble, but you got to get more. I don't think he had a rebound in Wednesday night's game. That's bad. That, like, fam, you're out there for hustle points and rebounds. And if you're not getting the rebounds, you better be getting 20-plus hustle points. And he didn't do that. He did not do that. Like I said, Lou came out braided up, and I predicted this. I saw Lou had the braids. I said, Lou going for 25. He out here braided up. He going for 25. Man dropped 23. I was damn close. It was just different. It just hit different. You just know. Back to the East Coast, the Heat outlasted the Indiana Pacers to go up 2-0. Miami shot 50% from 3 in this game, and Duncan Robinson was 7 of 8. Jimmy Butler poured in 18, 7, and 6. Goran Dragic had 20 points. Tyler Hero had 15. But that 50% from 3 and Duncan Robinson's 28 points with 7 of 8 threes made. Ew. If they can start stroking the deep ball like that, watch out, because I think that they're a grittier version of the Raptors, but they don't have the metal, and I'm not sure if they have the enough star power to actually get. That's now my pick. Since my original pick of the Sixers is probably going to be eliminated very soon, I am pivoting now and going ultra dark horse and picking the Heat to come out of the East, because I just like them, and I think that they are at least the second toughest team in the Eastern Conference. We'll see if they have enough to take out the Raptors. That'll be a good Eastern Conference Finals, though. I'd root for that. I definitely root for that. Oladipo for the Indiana Pacers, 22 points. TJ Warren, a little cooled off, man. He had 14. He had 22, I believe, last game. 14 points this game. 0 for 5 from 3, though, and that's a big deal. Jimmy Butler's been getting up in his grill piece, and maybe not shutting him down, but he's definitely slowing him a lot, and that's a big thing, because we know TJ Warren was all bubble first team and was really torching everybody. So good to see Jimmy still got it, still doing it, and I'm sure Warren will bounce back. Like I said, I think he had 22 last game, so it's not like he's been shut down, but definitely slowed, and it's not the 50 piece he was putting up earlier. So you got 17 points from Turner and Brogdon. Aaron Holiday gave you 12, but there's just something missing about the Pacers. The Pacers remind me a lot of Denver. A really good team, a team that I could see making the Western Conference Finals, but I don't even think that that's really their ceiling. I think their ceiling is probably a second-round exit. Hard fought. But if they got to the conference finals, I think that'd be a quick work for whatever other team they were facing. And obviously, that's probably too broad of a statement, but that's just how I feel. I just don't think that they have enough. They seem to me like another team that's kind of missing that extra piece. And I love Oladipo. Still think he should have sat out and collected that check, but that's just because that would be the slickest thing ever. That is the finesse master, as I wrote a little while back for ClockerSports.com. I just don't think that the Pacers have enough, man. I like Heat. I picked the Heat to win this one, and they're so far proving me right. So we'll see how long that keeps up. Speaking of proving me right, the Rockets are proving a lot of people wrong. Missing Russell Westbrook through 2 games, they are still up 2-0 on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, granted, this Thunder team was one that had, a 0.7% chance, something like that, of making the playoffs. So they're probably already living on borrowed time. But they led this game 59-53 at half and ended up getting outscored 58-39 the rest of the way. So, not great. James Harden, 21-9 from the floor. The Rockets had 7 of their 8 guys that they played in double figures. So, they were putting in that work. James didn't even have that great of a stat line. Like, 21-9, that's pedestrian for him. They would put it to him. They put it to him. Let me just tell you like that. Shai had 31-6. Danilo gave 17 points. CP3 had 14 points, and Schroeder had 13. It's just not enough. They might have reached the end of their road. Like I said, if they didn't get those first 2 games, I thought that if Houston had to play more than 2 games, and really even that second game without Russ was going to be problematic. But Russ, my guy, was on the sideline coaching, and maybe that was the difference. But they put it to him, and gladly. I'm happy to see that the Rockets should be on their way to the second round, barring some kind of insane collapse by them. Now, do I think it's going to be a sweep? Probably, but I don't think so. I think there's going to be a game that they just drop mentally. Maybe it's when Russ comes back trying to get himself worked in, and they let the Rockets, they let the Thunder get away with one. But I really think this is the Rockets. I'm sure it's the Rockets series to lose. But I think the Thunder dropped the ball. Without Russ, they definitely should have been able to take at least one of these first two, and it just hasn't happened. So I think they missed their window. And if this is the way it goes out, they had a hell of a run. Like, again, slimmest of chances to make the postseason and to actually do it is incredible. So the Bucks got their revenge on the Magic to bring this thing back 1-1. There were 2 lead changes in this game. So just to let you know how serious the Bucks were about getting their big payback. 42 to 24 points in the paint in favor of Milwaukee. Giannis had 28 and 20. I think he had the shortest time to reach that stat line in NBA history. You got 20 points from Splash Mountain, Brook Lopez. Pat Connaughton gave you 15 points, and Eric Bledsoe gave 13 and 7. Dante DiVincenzo 11 points. You got something from everybody except for Chris Middleton, who gave you a deuce. And I don't mean he was giving you shit. Well, I mean, I guess he was. I guess he actually was, now that I think about it. 2 points. All-star. This is the guy that people were telling me is going to help keep Giannis in Milwaukee. Boy, Giannis out of there. It's finna be Middleton and Andrew Wiggins next season. Just saying. Not saying, I'm just saying. Flipping over to the Magic side, though, they didn't get quite the same performance out of Markelle Fultz they got first game. He did give you 11 points. But Vucevic, I was speaking with someone earlier, and I literally said, they're not going to get 30-plus out of Vucevic again, so they're not going to have a chance. Well, I was half right. They didn't have a chance, but they got 32 and 10 out of Vuce. Vuce is pulling the Joel Embiid right now, averaging, he's actually doing better, 33 and 12 in this series. Ugh. Vucevic is killing it. And you got Evan Fournier and Terrence Ross chipped in 12, and DJ Augustin gave you 10 points. But Vucevic, him and Joel are out here putting up the Herculean efforts just to have them squandered. The Magic, obviously, without Jonathan Isaac, still without Aaron Gordon as well. Did they really have a chance? I don't know. Well, and maybe they get another game, but I don't see it. I think they woke the Bucks up, and we're going to see some routing going on after this. And then finally, the Los Angeles Lakers went showtime on the Blazers to make that thing 1-1. There was one lead change in this game, and the Lakers had the advantage in the paint, 52 to 40. This was the AD game. He had 31 and 11, and he was much more aggressive after going 8 of 24 in the last game and settling for a lot of jump shots. There was a lot of rolls, a lot of cuts. He was at the rim an awful lot this game. LeBron, though, 10, 6, and 7. And here's the thing. They won the game by 30 points. So it's hard to go out and attack them. But 10, 6, and 7, god dang, dog. That is not good. Now, again, he had like a plus 23, plus minus, and they won by like 30 points. So I'm not going to crash on him for that. But yeah, that's not a healthy Bron line. I'm not saying he's hurt. It's just not a healthy Bron line. KCP, though, might be the star of this game. 16 points, 4 of 6 from 3. Go ahead, KCP. Yeah, golf clap. Look, after he was out there with the 1-1-1 stat line in game 1, it was really nice to see him have a bounce back and know that this is going to be a series. Now, the flip side of this is not as exciting, or not as positive, rather, and could be worse depending on how everything turns out. Damian Lillard had 18 points. CJ McCollum had 13. Melo only had 2. It was rough, and it's been rough for CJ as well. And Dame's 18. He sat the fourth quarter, and it wasn't because they were getting blown out. Dame dislocated his finger, and they are unsure about his availability for game 3. Now, I could see them sitting him again to make sure he's better for game 4 and try to come back. But I think any missed time by Dame and a drop game by the Blazers is donezo. That's a recipe for disaster, and they don't have the ability to waste their squandering. Now, he'll probably come back. It's his non-shooting hand, so I can see him playing through it as well. But it's going to be a factor, and that's something that I think is going to weigh on his mind. But the Lakers proved the point. Both LA teams proved the point. They just proved very different points, and we'll see how it goes from here. One little quick parter, real quick. George Karl, this is a tweet. I heard Mark Jackson is taking shots at my defensive coaching during tonight's broadcast. Remind me, how many All-Star teams did you coach, Mark? How many Defensive Player of the Years? How many finals appearances? How many of my teams became dynasties right after I left? That's a definite shot at Mark talking about the Warriors. Listen, I have no issue with this because there's been a lot of Mark Jackson love going on, and they say absence makes the heart grow fonder. But clearly there is some people who feel a certain type of way. We talked about the reasons why he hasn't gotten coaching, for saying that there will never be using homophobic language or talking homophobically, saying there will never be a gay person in his locker room, with Jason Collins on the team and the owner of the Warriors being gay. He had the falling out with Brian Scalabrine, who basically admitted that he was wrong, but still says that Mark took it too far on his end. There are people who don't like him, basically. And so whenever people say, why hasn't he gotten a coaching job, I often want to point to stuff like this. Like, well, he might just be a douche. Like, it's not doesn't have to be rocket science. Rumors are that there will be mini camps set up for the Elite Eight, the 8 teams that did not get invited did not make the cut. Screw invited. They didn't make the cut to go down to Orlando. So be on the lookout for news in that regard. And then the Bulls, like I said, got that 4th pick, man. So be on the lookout for Pippen Ain't Easy, an article about their options in that space and what I'd like to see them do. So that's going to be fun. Before I go, got to touch on a few things from the NFL. It's training camp, and there's no preseason, so we're not seeing a ramp up. We're just getting a lot of bits and pieces, and the NFL has modified its strategy to where you're getting a lot of vague secondhand information. It was always secondhand for me, but it's so vague now that you're kind of having to make assumptions based off of what you're seeing. So we'll get into it. First one that we know for sure, Ron Rivera was diagnosed with cancer in his lymph nodes in his neck. He said he will continue to be coaching. It was a self-diagnosis, so get well soon. Cancer sucks, no matter what. Cancer sucks. Des Bryant worked out for the Ravens. He has not played, I believe, since 2016. I gotta check that, man. But it's been a while, basically, my point. No deal is imminent, but it's good to see Des popping up and still getting workouts. I just think it's past that time, and I don't know how he would fit there. They got enough young guys to where I think they should let them keep growing. I know he's a veteran, but I don't think he brings enough to warrant him taking time away from one of the young guys that they have. And then lastly, my Chicago Bears QBs and really training camp in general. We still haven't seen Robert Quinn. You're still ramping up Khalil Mack a little bit, but he's been out there. Jalen Johnson is going to be thrust into his position maybe a little bit earlier than they anticipated, but with the injury to Artie Burns, that's going to be the case. But those quarterbacks. Last year, there was a lot of discussion from the brass that Mitch had been making progress, and you heard a lot of talk about 202 level offense and things of that nature. Well, this year they've toned that back a bit, but there's still a lot of positivity coming out from them. And then when you hear the descriptions later on, it's a lot worse. And here's the one that stuck out to me. I told you, wasn't getting hyped about that throw to Jimmy Graham against the air in shorts and right now. That's not going to get me. What did get me, though, was comments that reports that Mitch, in a goal line drill, rolled out and took a sack, basically, because you're not going to get hit. But the decision, right? And Matt Nagy came out and I don't know if he tried to defend it, but he explained that they told Mitch he can't do that. He knows he can't do that, and he won't do that again. I find that hilarious that in year 4 he had to be told, and that you were telling me that he won't do it again. Well, he did it, I believe, 8 times last year and really sank the rating of his offensive line. And when I found that set out, I had to go back and look. So that's disturbing. Year 4, and he's making those kind of decisions. That's the problem. It's not a talent thing with Mitch. That's why I can't get hyped up over those throws. It's always been about his mentality. Forever. And it's going to be until they show me in a game that he's figured it out. All that mechanic stuff and bonding with your teammates, that ish goes out the window once it's live action and somebody flying at your feet. And I think that's what we saw from him last year is once he got hit and hurt, he kind of went into a shell. I have no reason to believe that's going to change. Unfortunately, reports are that Nick Foles hasn't been that much better, so I'm not sure if you're going to get an improvement there, but it'd be different. And I guess you go out with the guy that you just paid big money for after you declined Trubisky's contract, his 5th-year option. It's just blah. It's just blah. But hey, the Bulls got the 4th overall pick, so some good news came out. And again, I just don't know, man. Those quarterbacks are very, very mediocre at best, and I'm fearful of a 9-7, 8-8, even 7-9 season if they don't figure it out fast and they don't understand that. I was a proponent of them having the 2 preseason games. I thought that would condense things and make it a lot quicker and make them kind of go with what they saw instead of trying to overanalyze to force one of the guys into the position. No preseason games, I don't see how you can justify that as being a helpful thing. So, hope nobody takes that way. But do be on the lookout for Last Word on Pro Football on the Divisional rankings that should come out. Oh man, I want to say early next week. I'll put that timeline on it, but be on the lookout for it. And what else is coming out from them? I'm also going to have to do one about what we've been hearing and how Chicago might as well be the show me state. I'm tired of hearing about these things in practice, and there's nothing that the Bears can do. The timeline is the timeline, but I definitely am ready to see it in action, and I don't care to hear the superlatives about how great Mitch's this throw was, especially when you got reports of him making boneheaded rookie mistakes, period. That's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Josh G. Buck. The Facebook page is Clocker Sports. The website, clockersports.com. The email address is clockersports@gmail.com. Be on the lookout for the Roundtable podcast to drop tomorrow, or drop as well. And check out everybody else's stuff too. Me and clockersports.com. We out here. We're trying to get it, and we're just trying to grow. So until the very next time, I think you already know what it is. Is that the horns?